The desert night over Dimona cracked open like a thunderclap from another world. It was March 21st, 2026, just after midnight, when the first sirens howled across the southern Israeli town. Residents who had grown up in the shadow of Israel's most secretive nuclear research center, Shimon Peres Negev Nuclear Research Center, had always believed their proximity to one of the country's most guarded secrets made them untouchable. That illusion shattered in seconds. A single Iranian ballistic missile, moving faster than any conventional interceptor could reliably track, sliced through the layered defenses of Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the vaunted Arrow system. It slammed into a residential block, sending concrete and steel twisting into grotesque sculptures of destruction. Glass rained down like lethal confetti, cars flipped onto their roofs, children screamed from beneath collapsed ceilings. By the time the dust settled and rescue crews arrived with flashlights, power grids flickering and failing across the region, Israeli authorities reported at least 180 wounded in Dimona and the neighboring town of Arad. 11 were in critical condition. A 10-year-old boy was among the most severely injured. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would later call the absence of mass fatalities a miracle from above. The hospitals called it something else: the highest single attack casualty count since the war began 4 weeks earlier. Iranian state television framed the strike as precise retaliation for an earlier Israeli-American assault on Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. The message was unmistakable. The rules had changed. The era of one-sided aerial dominance was over. This was no isolated incident. It was Wave 73 of Iran's meticulously orchestrated counter-campaign, codenamed Operation True Promise 4. By the morning of March 23, 2026, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, had already announced and executed Waves 72 through 75. Each wave combined hundreds of ballistic missiles with swarms of Shahed drones, designed not merely to inflict damage, but to overwhelm, exhaust, and expose the limits of the most advanced air defense architecture the West had ever built. Targets stretched from southern Israel to American-linked bases in the Gulf, Al-Minhad in the United Arab Emirates, and Ali Al-Salem in Kuwait. The IRGC's communiques were clinical and defiant. Every American and Israeli asset that enabled aggression against the Islamic Republic is now under direct surveillance and within range. To understand how we arrived at this moment, how a sanctioned nation under sustained bombardment could launch 75 consecutive missile waves and still possess an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 ready missiles, one must rewind to the war's ignition point. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated surprise campaign of airstrikes across Iran. The operation, which Western media quickly labeled Operation Epic Fury, targeted nuclear sites, missile production facilities, and command nodes. In the chaos, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was reportedly killed, along with several high-ranking officials. Tehran's response was swift and structurally different from previous cycles of escalation. Within hours, the IRGC activated Operation True Promise 4, a name deliberately echoing earlier limited exchanges in 2024 and 2025, but scaled to a level of sustained intensity never before seen. The number 4 was not arbitrary. Iranian strategists framed it as the fourth major direct retaliation in an escalating cycle that began with the April 2024 drone and missile barrage. But this iteration was qualitatively different. It incorporated lessons learned from every previous exchange: faster launch cycles, solid fuel propulsion for near-instant readiness, maneuverable re-entry vehicles, and deliberate targeting of third-country bases to stretch American resources thin. The Strait of Hormuz became both a physical choke point and a psychological one. Iran threatened and partially demonstrated its ability to disrupt 20% of global oil transit, while President Donald Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum demanding its reopening or face total destruction of Iranian power infrastructure. The clock was ticking and the missiles kept flying. Let us descend now into the technical heart of this new warfare, the weapons that have rewritten the calculus of deterrence in the Middle East. At the center stands the Fattah family, Iran's pride and the Pentagon's nightmare. The Fattah 1, unveiled publicly in June 2023 and christened Conqueror in Persian, was never meant to be a museum piece. It is a medium-range ballistic missile, MRBM, with a declared range of 1,400 to 1,500 kilometers, sufficient to blanket every major Israeli population center and military installation from launch sites deep inside Iran. Its claimed peak velocity reaches Mach 13 to 15 during the mid-course phase, translating to roughly 11,000 to 18,000 miles per hour. But raw speed alone does not make it revolutionary. The true innovation lies in its maneuverable re-entry vehicle, MAR-V. Unlike traditional ballistic warheads that follow a predictable parabolic arc, the Fattah 1's warhead detaches and uses small onboard thrusters and aerodynamic surfaces to zigzag, climb, dive, and alter course even after re-entering the atmosphere. Surface temperatures can exceed 2,000 degrees Celsius, yet advanced composite heat shields, widely believed to incorporate carbon-carbon and ceramic matrix materials, allow the vehicle to survive and retain control. In practical terms, this means traditional kinetic interceptors struggle to predict the warhead's position even 3 seconds ahead. Israeli Arrow 3 missiles, designed precisely for exo-atmospheric intercepts of long-range threats, have been forced into desperate salvos. Multiple independent footage analyses from the March 21-22 strikes show at least 2 Fattah-class vehicles slipping through the net over Dimona and Arad. The warhead payload, estimated between 500 and 1,000 kilograms of high explosive, delivered enough kinetic and blast energy to collapse multi-story residential structures and ignite secondary fires across city blocks. The Fattah 2 unveiled in November 2023 and rushed into operational status by early 2026 elevates the threat further. It employs a true hypersonic glide vehicle (HGV) architecture. After the booster phase, the warhead separates and glides within the upper atmosphere at sustained speeds above Mach 5, using lift-generating body shapes to perform sweeping S-turns and altitude changes. Radar cross-section is minimized, and the constantly shifting trajectory renders predictive algorithms in Western defense systems nearly obsolete. Israeli officials have privately admitted that the Fattah 2 forced a complete re-evaluation of national missile defense doctrine. Vice President of Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, Yuval Baseski, had warned as early as August 2025 that hypersonic threats open a new era in air defense, where traditional speed-matching interceptors become physically impossible due to atmospheric friction limits. Iranian state media released footage in the days following Wave 73 showing Fattah 2 launches with the overlay text non-interceptable. Western analysts at the Military Watch magazine and the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, corroborated that at least 3 confirmed Fattah 2 impacts occurred in the first 3 weeks of the war, one of them reportedly striking a fortified Israeli command center and causing high-level casualties. The glide profile allows the weapon to approach from unexpected azimuths, often skimming below the optimal engagement envelope of high-altitude interceptors like Arrow while remaining too fast for lower-tier systems. These hypersonic spearheads do not operate in isolation. They form the tip of a saturation spear. Supporting the barrage are legacy yet upgraded systems that Iran has mass-produced and hardened against preemptive strikes. The Ghadr and Imad variants, evolved descendants of the Shahab 3, offer ranges between 1,600 and 1,950 kilometers with 750 kilogram warheads and circular error probabilities, CEP, of 300 to 500 meters. Their liquid fuel engines require more preparation time, but their sheer numbers allow them to act as the volume fire component. In waves 72 through 75, these missiles were credited with the majority of residential damage in Dimona and Arad, striking after the hypersonics had already drawn away or exhausted interceptor stocks. The Khorramshahr 4 pushes the envelope to 2,000–3,000 kilometers with a CEP reportedly as tight as 30 meters and a heavy payload capacity. Its liquid fuel design is offset by exceptional accuracy, making it ideal for striking specific military infrastructure such as runways at Al-Minhad or fuel depots at Ali al-Salem. Solid fuel standouts like the Sejil, 2-stage 2,000 kilometers, and the newer Khaybar Shaken and Haj Qasim, 1,450 kilometer, provide rapid response capability. Because they require no lengthy fueling, they can be launched from Mobile Transporter Erector Launchers, TELs, within minutes of receiving orders. Critical when Israeli and American drones and stealth aircraft are hunting launch sites in real time. These missiles were used to create the initial drone screen, forcing Israeli batteries to expend expensive interceptors on cheap Shahed 136 and Shahed 238 UAVs before the ballistic wave arrived. The tactical doctrine is as elegant as it is merciless. Overwhelm, exhaust, penetrate. Each wave typically comprises 100 to 200 ballistic missiles synchronized with several hundred drones. The drones act as decoys and radar sponges, forcing continuous activation of air defense radars and rapid depletion of interceptor stockpiles. Once the sky is saturated, the ballistic missiles, especially the maneuvering Fattah variants, slip through gaps created by exhausted or distracted systems. Iranian sources claim the strategy has reduced the effective interception rate of southern Israeli defenses to below 60% in recent waves, a dramatic drop from earlier exchanges. Beyond the battlefield mechanics lies a deeper strategic transformation. For decades, Israel's security doctrine rested on qualitative superiority in air power and missile defense. The Iron Dome had become a symbol of national resilience against low-tech rocket fire from Gaza and Lebanon. The Arrow family was advertised as the ultimate shield against Iranian ballistic threats. Operation True Promise 4 has exposed the limits of both, when hypersonic glide vehicles and MARV-equipped missiles can maneuver at Mach 5+ inside the atmosphere. The physics of interception change. As one unnamed Israeli defense official told reporters after the Dimona strike, "We are no longer fighting rockets. We are fighting physics." The regional implications extend far beyond the immediate combat zone. Strikes on Al-Minhad and Ali al-Salem have drawn the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait deeper into the conflict. Whether willingly or not, both nations host critical American logistical hubs. Their air defenses were forced into action, and their political neutrality has been compromised. Iran's explicit targeting of third-country assets signals a willingness to internationalize the war horizontally as well as vertically. The economic dimension is equally explosive. The Strait of Hormuz remains partially contested. Iranian fast attack boats and coastal missile batteries have demonstrated the ability to threaten commercial shipping, driving insurance rates for oil tankers skyward and contributing to global price volatility. Trump's 48-hour ultimatum, delivered on March 22nd, demanded immediate reopening of the strait under threat of escalated strikes on Iranian electrical and water infrastructure. Tehran responded by promising to target American energy assets across the region in return. The world's oil markets, already jittery, now sit on a knife's edge. Human cost, as always, is the most visceral metric. In Dimona and Arad, civilians who had no direct role in strategic decision-making paid the price. Rescue videos circulating on global networks show firefighters pulling survivors from rubble while emergency generators hummed against the desert darkness. Israeli media reported widespread power outages and water disruptions in the south. On the Iranian side, the cumulative effect of weeks of American and Israeli airstrikes has produced its own grim ledger. Over 1,500 confirmed dead according to Iranian health authorities, though independent verification remains difficult amid wartime censorship. Hospitals in Tehran and Isfahan operate under blackout conditions. The cycle of vengeance has become self-sustaining. Yet perhaps the most profound shift is psychological and doctrinal. For the first time since the Gulf War, a non-Western power has demonstrated the ability to impose costs on both Israel and the United States through sustained long-range precision strikes. China, Russia, and North Korea are watching with intense interest. If Iran, operating under decades of sanctions and repeated preemptive attacks, can field operational hypersonic glide vehicles that penetrate multi-layered defenses, the implications for future conflicts in the Indo-Pacific or Eastern Europe are sobering. The era of unchallenged American air and missile supremacy is being challenged not by peer competitors alone, but by determined middle powers who have invested heavily in asymmetric technologies. As Wave 76 looms on the horizon, the region holds its breath. Israeli defense forces have announced intensified preemptive operations against suspected launch sites, while American carrier groups in the Gulf have increased alert status. Trump has floated the possibility of ground troop deployments, though Pentagon sources describe such talk as contingency planning rather than imminent policy. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has vowed to maintain pressure until every foreign strike ceases and the Strait of Hormuz issue is resolved on Tehran's terms. The missiles continue to fly, the desert nights remain illuminated by streaks of fire and the glow of interceptors, and somewhere in the command bunkers of Tel Aviv, Washington, and Tehran, strategists are rewriting textbooks in real time, because the weapons that struck Dimona and Arad on March 21, 2026 did more than damage buildings. They damaged an entire paradigm of regional security.